I am a firm believer that the Word of God illustrates in detail all walks of people that will ever grace this earth. From the anointed, the martyrs, prostitutes, tax collectors, kings, warriors, backstabbers, cowards, the jealous, necromancers, good shepherds, bad shepherds, and etc. Basically all walks of people. You know, we talk a lot about the mighty things that the men of God did in the Bible, so much that sometimes we tend to overlook the powerful things God did through the women.
You are stronger than you believe.
I would like to shine light on a particular woman named Abigail. If you are a queen listening to this, think about how close Abigail's events and occurrences parallel to your life. Abigail was the wife of Nabal. Nabal was said in scripture to be a man of folly. Folly meaning lacking good sense and foolish. He was hard to talk to, churlish and evil in his doings.
You're hitting them corners fast. You need to slow this mother down. You understand? I almost spilled my yak on this $200 suit.
Some of y'all listening might be asking, why would Abigail get with such a man? Well, back in these days, women didn't have much control over who took them to be a wife. So if they ran into someone like Nabal, they just simply had to make the best of it. Now, ladies, think about being under a roof with a husband who is foolish, evil, and hard to talk to. Pretty bad situation, right?
I don't have anything to say.
You got that look?
I don't have any luck.
What do you want from me?
Nothing. I don't want anything.
But that's exactly where the Bible starts, with Abigail. Now, the Bible never tells us why Nabal was evil, hard to talk to, and foolish in his ways, but I assume that his riches brought upon this aura about him. The Word of God said he was a very great man who had thousands of sheep and thousands of goats. Also in 1 Samuel chapter 25, verse 6, it says that he lived in prosperity. How did he get this wealth? Well, it was passed down through the family from the blessings that Caleb received from standing up to the giants when the rest of the spies backed down. So I can assume that Nabal's ways were derived from his lifestyle. A rich man is evil because his faith is in his riches.
It is! Yes!
Oh, am I dreaming?
Yes!
No, this is too much like a dream. Where did this come from?
God sent that.
No.
A rich man is hard to talk to because he feels he no longer needs to learn. Just like I always say, before most rich men will drop on their knees to seek the Lord concerning a situation, they'll just grab their wallet.
We from New York. My name Ray Gibson, okay? Let's talk turkey. How much it gonna cost to turn one of them white-only pies into nigger pie?
So this is a wealthy household. All wealth with no love, and there is not equal understanding under that roof. This is the pure definition of unevenly yoked. Now David, he heard about Nabal's sheep being in the wilderness. So he sent 10 young men out to guard them as a good deed for Nabal, hoping to receive a minor reward at the end of the watch, you know, like a meal or two. They had enough men with them, they could have killed off all Nabal's sheep and killed the shearers and been on their way. But instead, they requited a good deed toward Nabal and his sheep. They built up a wall of protection around the sheep night and day and watched over them, letting none be harmed and none escape. After this deed, the 10 young men went to Nabal and told him they come in peace, and also told him how they watched over his sheep, and asked him for a meal or two. Nabal instead told them he doesn't know them. He don't know no David. He don't know no Jesse. He wasn't giving them no bread, no water, no flesh to eat, and he sent them on their way.
Money first? Oh, wait a minute, I got money. Then don't play me like I ain't got no money. I have no money. Check it out. Wait a minute. I got more right here. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Oh, okay. All right. Ooh.
All that wealth he had, and he couldn't spare those lads a meal for the work they had just done for him. When the word got back to David, he was angry and headed towards Nabal to realign his thinking pattern, if you know what I'm saying. On his way to Nabal, he sees who? Abigail. See, Abigail was there to fix her husband's mistake. How many of you queens find yourself in a household where you have to pray and stand in the gap to cover for a husband who has little or no interest in the Lord and acts foolish? She heard what her husband did and she instantly ran and got 200 loaves of bread, 2 bottles of wine, 5 sheep ready dressed, 5 measures of parched corn, 100 clusters of raisins, 200 cakes of figs, and headed David's way. See, when the Bible first introduced Abigail in 1 Samuel chapter 25, verse 3, the first thing it said about Abigail was that she was a woman of good understanding. I take this as her being a woman of God. Because the word says in Proverbs 9 and 10 that the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. So when the Bible says she was a woman of good understanding, it lets me know that she was good with God. Along with this understanding, she knew that she must correct the wrong that her husband requited to those young men. While David was headed to realign Nabal's way of thinking, she met him, fell at his feet, and begged him to let her husband's iniquity fall upon her. Another reason I know that Abigail was of the Lord is because she denied herself so that another could live. The true essence of love.
But I held on to you, Joy. I took all my feelings, my wants and needs and dreams, and I buried them inside you. I planted a seed and watched and prayed over. I planted myself inside you and waited to bloom. It didn't take me no 18 years to realize the soil was hard and rocky and it was never gonna bloom.
Then while she was offering the gifts to David's young men, she started to prophesy over David's life, how he would be appointed ruler over Israel. Told him how he would be made a sure house by the Lord, and how all his enemies will be cast from him like from the middle of a sling. And she ended by saying, when the Lord does all these things unto you, forget not your handmaid. And David thanked her for her words and said that if she hadn't come to meet him, then Nabal may surely have been killed. After Abigail made the trip back home, she entered to see Nabal having a feast. He was said to be merry and full of wine. He was drunk. But being a wife of good understanding, she said nothing to him that night, but rather in the morning. In the morning, once he came down from his drunkenness, Abigail told Nabal about how she covered his foolishness by giving David and his men 200 loaves of bread, 2 bottles of wine, 5 sheep, 5 measures of parched corn, 100 raisin clusters, 200 cakes of figs. That was equivalent to a wife today going into her husband's bank account and withdrawing $100,000 and giving it to somebody as a peace offering. This news was so much for Nabal that he had a heart attack and died when he heard it. And as David said, the Lord returned Nabal's wickedness upon his own head. You ever heard about men losing lots of money at a casino and jumping off a bridge? Well, this is similar to Nabal hearing that news and having a heart attack. And later, Abigail was sent for by David to be his wife.
It's hard to imagine a wedding. I think even my father would recognize that.
Ada, I want to marry you. If you'll have me.
And you want to know what Abigail said when she came into the presence of her new husband? She bowed herself on her face to the ground and said, "Behold, let thine handmaid be as a servant to wash the feet of the servants of my Lord." To me, Abigail had tremendous understanding, y'all. She knew that the situation she was in with Nabal was only prepping her for where she was going. She also had open hands while her husband Nabal was stingy with his possessions. She was a prophetess as well. Nabal was the partier, but Abigail seemed to me to be in a zone of her own, patient and understanding with the Lord, staying true to herself and being patient in rough situations, leading her to be blessed by God. This event with Abigail let me know another message in life too that's very vital. Just bless, because we never know who we are blessing when we do. It also taught me to stand in the gap for those who are too weak to stand for themselves. It also taught me riches should never blind you from the importance of showing love.
Randolph, leave me alone, Mortimer. Randolph, Randolph! I'm still not talking to you. Look.
You ever heard the phrase, the higher you go up, that ladder, the harder the fall will be? Well, that's true. Sometimes we climb up and climb up and climb up that ladder, not knowing that the fall would be worse in the end. So Nabal had a heart attack because his God had become his riches, and once his God died, he died. How many women out there feel as if Abigail's events correlate with your life today? Are you standing in the gap for anyone? Are you a woman of good understanding? Are you married to a Nabal? Are you a prophetess? Are you now with a man of God that you can build with after going through rough patches in your life? Maybe, maybe not.